Thank you, Dr. Hess. We have with us tonight Professor Daniel Shamovitz, Dean of Life Sciences at Tel Aviv University and President-elect of Ben-Gurion University from the Pittsburgh Jewish community, to address us. Professor Shamovitz, bevakasha.
I didn't mean to be here tonight. Only 2 hours ago, my son called me, who's a student here, and said, there's something for Pittsburgh, you should come. And so who else is here from Pittsburgh, just so I know, so you can correct me. You know, Pittsburgh, it's a very small city. You come from downtown out of a highway called the Parkway South, and you get off on the exit for Squaw Hill. And when you make a left and you go up and you hit Polei Tzedek, an Orthodox synagogue, when you hit Polei Tzedek, you make a left. And then on the left-hand side is Beit Shalom, which is a conservative synagogue. And then you keep going on, and then you make another, on this left that's where it's Tree of Life. It's not Etz Chaim, it's Tree of Life synagogue, which actually is 3 congregations. You could have a Reconstructionist, a conservative, or I think a rejuvenating congregation, I think they call it. And then you make a left turn and you get to Rodef Shalom, where the Reform movement was founded in the late 19th century in Pittsburgh. And all of this within the space of maybe 2 kilometers. It's a small community. In a small space for 3 generations, we've lived together in Squirrel Hill. But it's not an insular community because we're part of the thing. Orthodox, conservative, Reform, Reconstructionist, Lubavitch, we all have a couple things in common. First of all, we all have the same kippah. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers kippah, which I had to bring with us today. We're united with this. And all of these Jews in Squirrel Hill will argue about whether you eat at Minio's Pizza or Aiello's Pizza. Because we're not alone in our neighborhood. We're with Italians, we're with Serbs, we're with African Americans, we're with Poles. And we all share the same love of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you saw the game on Sunday, you saw the incredibly moving moment of silence. And the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers lives in Squirrel Hill also. Down the street from Tree of Life is the Hadassah building, where my mother was Western Pennsylvania president of Hadassah. Down there from there is the building for the School of Advanced Jewish Studies and the Solomon Schechter Day School, which my father founded as one of the national vice presidents of United Synagogue. Now, this is a very moving time for me because I stopped sitting Shiva this morning. My mother died, who was 7 days ago. Saturday night, we're sitting, waiting for Shiva to begin, watching television. All of a sudden, I see my cousin's house, which is 5 houses from the Tree of Life. And this killed me. My mother died at the ripe old age of 88, happily, quietly in her bed at home. But as the names started coming out, and we have context, so we knew them much more before, Ruth Mallinger was in Hadassah with my mother. I called my uncle, Uncle Bob, what's going on? He said, are you okay? He said, I'm fine, of course. Why? He said, because there was a shooting at Tree of Life. He said, can't be. I was just there last night. He was at Shabbat services, but he doesn't like getting up early on Saturday morning because a conservative Jew doesn't always have to get up early. Jonathan Perlman, the rabbi of the congregation in the basement, was with me in Young Judea in Pittsburgh, was with me on year course, Young Judea year course at Kibbutz Keturah, and came back after JTS to have a congregation in Pittsburgh. It's a place where people want to come back to. He actually saved 3 people of his congregation by throwing them into a closet in the basement. So this is a place that I felt completely attacked because this should not be happening in Pittsburgh. I'm sure you felt the exact same way when you saw it. When I hear that we should have guards at a shul in Pittsburgh, we've lost. If we have to have guards in a shul in Pittsburgh, America has lost. Because that's not who we are. Everyone lives together. We argue about the pizza. And this came together then with something we found in my mother's writings that I just have to share with you, and I hope that I'm not taking too much time. But so my mother, who was born in 1930 and graduated from 8th grade in 1944, so this is from June 1944. She's not a native Pittsburgher. She's from Brooklyn. She just adopted Pittsburgh as her home. And I think it's still relevant for today. So here she is, a 14-year-old. The war is going on. The millions are still being killed and many more. The ultimate goal of a complete education is a lesson of tolerance towards one's fellow man. In the new world that must arise from the pleasant conflict, the duty of the educated American shall be first and foremost an understanding of all men. For only the uneducated are ever intolerant, and only from intolerance have hatred and suspicion sprung. I believe that we of the graduating class have learned the foundations of this lesson well, and through higher institutions of learning and personal experience, we will someday be able to use it for the good of our country and for the good of the world. Who would have thought that, how many years, 44 years later, we would still be looking at the intolerant? But what we need to understand that this was not a madman. It makes it very easy for us to say, who was this madman? But this madman was motivated by words. And words can kill. The ADL has been fighting words for decades and been saying, watch out what you say. Because, yes, this is the man who killed, and no one else killed, but others pushed him to it. Others helped him get there. We in Pittsburgh cannot let that be what defines us. And we in Israel cannot let words kill also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shemovitz. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great